What is up guys, TopTierYugioh here, and today I want to give a thorough and in-depth analysis of the new Danger archetype. They look really interesting so far and have a lot of potential moving forward, and I'm not just saying this to gas you guys up or generate hype or get some views. I genuinely believe that they're going to be pretty good. And so we're going to take an objective view into what these new cards are and what they do, because they have the ability to not just be a strong deck moving forward, but they also look really fun and enjoyable as well, and that's the most important thing. And so the best introduction is the one that Konami gives us themselves in their article, stating that cryptids are elusive monsters that everybody's heard of, but few have ever seen. Imagine a secretive force took the world's most mysterious monsters and transplanted them to an island of tropical terrors. Now throw in some hunters seeking the world's most dangerous game for their ultimate fantasy big game safari, but who's the hunter and who's the hunted? That is how they introduce this new Danger archetype, which will likely include a group of mysterious monsters, the cryptids, and then also the hunters who are hunting the cryptids. This is a new TCG exclusive archetype that is released in Cybernetic Horizons on July 27th in the TCG, and will likely continue getting support throughout the next couple of sets. And so they seem to consist mostly of monsters, most of which are dark, having varying types, levels, and stats. But again, they specifically mention that there are both cryptids and hunters. This leads me to believe that there will be all sorts of different types for the monsters. There's going to be beast, beast warrior, winged beast, fiend, sea serpent, aqua, reptile, maybe even some dragons or worms for the cryptids. And then I expect the hunters to be probably warrior or beast warrior, or maybe even spellcasters. And now a crazy plot twist, the ultimate plot twist, would be if this is actually in a virtual safari game. And so all of this will be happening online, which would allow some of the hunters to be cybers. That probably won't happen, but it would be, a plot twist. That would also allow some of the cryptids to maybe be machines. I don't know. Just tossing some stuff out here, but who knows? I guess that adds to the mystery. And so they are all dark, and so that does allow for some attribute support, but type support may be possible as we get more monsters. But as of now, they haven't announced any hunters, and so we only have the cryptids. Again, elusive and mysterious. And so all of the cryptids have two different effects. They all have the same effect to special summon themselves from the hand, and then they have a unique effect that triggers when discarded. The special summon effect that they all have is that you can reveal this card in your hand. Your opponent randomly chooses one card from your entire hand, and then you discard the chosen card. Then, if that card was not, the name of this card, special summon one of this card from your hand, and if you do, draw one card. And so the first thing that I notice is that this is not once per turn, and so if you have multiples, you can summon multiples as long as they don't discard each other for the effects. They are ignition effects, not quick effects, so you can't chain multiples together or anything. The cost is only to reveal, and then discarding is part of the effect, which does allow for Dark World synergy. And then this both summons monsters and triggers the other effects, because all of them do also have discard effects. Now I really think that these effects are very cool because, first, being able to summon yourselves from the hand is generally a good thing, but also I like that you have some semblance of control over what's going to happen. So by controlling the number of cards in your hand, you can sort of affect the odds of what your opponent's going to discard, and so you can sort of force them to discard what you're activating if you have no other cards in your hand. Or if you have a lot of cards in your hand, there's a good chance they're going to discard something that isn't itself, allowing you to special summon itself and then draw a card to replace what you discarded. So I love that while risky, you do have some control over what's going to happen. And you can also just set all of your spells on traps first to guarantee that the monster in your hand is going to be what you want to discard. So they're just ways to sort of play around with this that I do think introduce an aspect of skill to the deck. And so again, all of the cryptid monsters have the same special summon effect, but let's move into the discard effects. This is the unique part. This is what separates them from the others. And so each of the cryptid monsters has an effect when discarded from your hand to the graveyard. This effect is once per turn, it can trigger when discarded for cost, and it does not miss timing. And so first we have Danger Nessie. It's a level 7 Dark Aqua monster, 1600 attack, 2800 defense, and the discard effect is you can add one danger card from your deck to your hand except for itself, and again it's hard once per turn. Next we have Jackalope, who is a level 3 Dark Beast with 500 attack and 2000 defense, whose unique effect is when discarded, you can special summon one danger monster from your deck in defense position except itself. Then we have Chupacabra, a level 4 Dark Fiend monster, 1500 attack, 400 defense. Unique effect is if discarded, you can target one danger monster in your graveyard, special summon it. And then finally, as the only utility monster that we have so far, we have Danger Bigfoot, level 8 Dark Beast, 3000 attack, 0 defense. If discarded, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. And so again, all of these discard effects are once per turn. They do work when discarded for cost and cannot miss timing because they're worded, if it's discarded, then you can do whatever. And so all of these effects are actually really good. And it's amazing to have this many engine cards in one set. Like the first set that you get, we have the ability to search danger cards from deck to hand, not just the monsters, but danger cards from deck to hand. Special summon the monsters from the deck and special summon monsters from the graveyard. That just allows for a really strong engine to facilitate many other effects in the future that we may be getting while we're getting support over the next couple of months to year. So these are the 4 monsters that we are going to be receiving in Cybernetic Horizons. And from this, we already have the ability to set up a very strong engine. We already have ways to search danger cards from deck to hand. We're getting a way to special summon them from the deck and also summon them from the graveyard. So this sets up the ability to facilitate the rest of the engine once we get more cards. And so I really do like the additions within this set. These are going to form the foundation of what the deck is able to do for the rest of its existence. And then Bigfoot being a utility card, we're definitely starting off with a good utility card. I mean, destroying a face-up card on the field is probably the most basic and most useful type of utility to have, because it can be used offensively or defensively. You can use it to break opponents' boards, or if you can somehow discard it on an opponent's turn, you can use it to interrupt their combos. So having strong engine pieces and versatile utility is exactly the recipe for success. But that's not all. We also get a field spell and the trap card. So we're going to move on to the field spell. And the field spell is Realm of Danger. The effect is that your opponent cannot target danger monsters you control with card effects during the turn they are special summoned. And then once per turn, you can target one danger monster you control. While you control that face-up monster and this face-up card, that monster can attack your opponent directly. Also, your opponent's monsters cannot target it for attacks, but it does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly. And so Realm of Danger, I think, is a very interesting card that we can't quite utilize fully yet. And so the biggest problem with this card, in my opinion, is that it only protects your danger monsters from targeting on the turn they are summoned. And the issue with that is if you're going first, there probably isn't anything to target your danger monsters. And so the only cards, if you're going first, that could potentially target your monsters are Effect Veiler and Infinite Impermanence. But your danger monsters don't do anything on the field anyways. They summon themselves from the hand, they do things when discarded to the graveyard, but on the field, there's no reason as of now for your opponent to Veiler or Impermanence them. And so I can't quite think of, when going first, a situation when this would be useful. And now if you're going second, it does gain a bit more usage because there are more things to potentially target your monsters. So for example, if you're playing against Sky Strikers, Widow Anchor is going to be a big thing. But again, the issue is that it only protects your danger monsters. But there's no reason for your opponent to target a danger monster with too many different cards. At least not yet. I think in the future, as we get more danger monsters that actually do things on the field, especially when we get more of the hunter cards, I think, then this card will become more useful. But as of now, it really can't be used extremely well, or really very well at all. And then the second effect is interesting. I think it's probably one of the only effects like it in the entire game outside of, I think, the Ghost Trick cards. I think they have things to where if you have set monsters, your opponent can still attack directly. And this is sort of similar to where your opponent can attack you directly, even though you have a monster on board, which is interesting. But I think the other cool thing is that it does allow you to attack directly. And so if you can get a Bigfoot on the field, which has 3000 attack, being able to maybe get 3000 directly is quite impressive. And so we'll see. I think this is a nice card to have. It's searchable by Terraforming. It's searchable by Nessie. So we can search it pretty easily within the engine. And then it does allow us to bias opponent's resources, which is a good attribute of a card. It's something that will get better depending on the format, if there are a lot of targeting effects, and then depending on the cards we have to utilize it. And the final card they revealed is Danger Zone, a normal trap card that has been compared to Graceful Charity, whose effect is draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards, including at least 1 danger card, or if you have no danger cards in your hand, reveal your entire hand and shuffle it into the deck. You can only activate 1 Danger Zone once per turn. So this card is actually insane. I mean, it contains the holy words of draw 3 that not many cards contain, and every card that does say draw 3 I think has been incredibly impactful, and I think this will be no different. Another really interesting thing is that unlike the summon effect, this allows you to actually choose what you're going to discard. And so with the summon effects, your opponent is randomly choosing a card to discard out of your hand, and while you have ways to control that to an extent, there will be situations where you can't control it. But with Danger Zone, we will be able to control what we discard. This is also very searchable through Nessie and through other cards that search trap cards. And it also allows us to discard multiple cryptids to get multiple effects at the same time, or chain block certain effects. And so if we're thinking our opponent might have some kind of disruption, we can discard 2 different cryptids and then order the chains in a manner to where they can't negate or interact with one of them. Another really interesting thing about this is that because it's a trap, it means we can use it on the opponent's turn, which means if combined with Bigfoot, this can be a potentially defensive card as well. And so we don't even need Bigfoot in hand, we can also draw into Bigfoot, which is a plus, I think. And so this card can also serve sort of multiple roles in that it's a reactive extender in that it's a trap that draws you more cards, but it's also potentially defense in that you can discard Bigfoot or any other utility that we're going to get in the future. Or on your own turn, if you don't activate it on your opponents, it can be sort of a regular extender because you can discard things like your Jackalope and your Chupacabra or your Nessie to get other effects. And so again, it's an incredibly versatile card that is exactly what we want in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It also allows you to potentially draw into hand traps, which is kind of ridiculous. Another really good thing that I like about Danger Zone is that even though it's a card that discards, it allows you to still go even in terms of card advantage, which is big because a lot of cards that force you to discard, they are negs. So if you look at a card like Karma Cut, for example, classic example, Raigeki Break, you discard a card to destroy a card your opponent controls, and so you're losing the card you discard and the card that you're actually activating, the Raigeki Break or the Karma Cut or whatever. So you're losing 2 cards to remove one of your opponents, and so that's naturally a -1. And even when combined with a danger effect, it might become you might break even. So you might lose 2 cards, then your opponent loses a card, and then you gain a card from the effect. You're still just breaking even, which makes it not very efficient unless your opponent makes inefficient plays to get there, which makes the timing and the sequencing really important. But it's better to just have efficient plays yourself. And so cards like Danger Zone are important for that because by themselves, you're at least gonna break even. Like you draw 3 and then you discard 2, and so you gain 3 cards, you lose 3 cards. You're losing the 2 that you discard and itself. And then on top of that, you're getting those danger effects to, get +1, maybe +2. And so that's the way you want to do things with this archetype. I think you want to play cards that at least break even, but then if you discard a danger card, you plus. What you don't want to do is play cards that are naturally negs or minuses in terms of card advantage, and then with the danger card, you maybe break even. Like, you don't want that. And I think that's going to be a big issue moving forward. But it is something that we need to identify and account for. And so now that we know what all of the danger cards that have been released so far, at least, we know what they are, we know what they do, let's get into some analysis. And so we're going to start by looking at the 5 characteristics of the best deck, and we're going to just look at what we have so far. Obviously, we don't have everything, and there's going to be different ways to play the deck. There's going to be a lot of different variables, but we can still take what we know from this theory and then apply it to what we know about the archetype. And so if we look at power, for example, so far the Danger Engine has a lot of potential to be quite powerful. They have the frameworks. They can summon themselves from the hand. They can summon each other from the hand, deck, or graveyard. They can trigger each other's effects, and so the ceiling can potentially be quite high. The only limitation is the once per turn clause on the discard effects. And so in terms of the ceiling, they have sort of what it takes to be a pretty powerful deck. And then in terms of being able to do quick and easy damage, the field spell does make direct attacking pretty easy. Like a Bigfoot direct is pretty scary. Like a That's 3,000 attack. You can attack directly with it, and that's a big old foot to the face, and that's pretty good. Then if we look at consistency, again, we have a really strong engine, and it's good also because of the amount of support that they can potentially use being dark. Then all the summon effects allow you to draw as well, and so you have a lot of different ways to draw cards just in the engine itself. You have a lot of searchability. You have searching from deck to hand, you have special summoning from the deck, the summon effects draw, plus dark support, and so I think consistency will be not a very big issue. The only sort of thing that I might worry about in terms of consistency is the negative efficiency, and so positive consistency is fine. Like, you're going to be drawing into your good cards all the time because, again, the engine is really good. You have Danger Zone, which is draw 3. Like, drawing good cards will not be an issue, but the problem might be engine requirements or drawing bad cards. And so because we're playing a deck that, or we might be playing a deck that discards cards, there's a lot of possibility for cards that are only good when discarded, or cards that aren't always necessarily good to have in your hand or good to have without discard cards. And so the negative consistency could potentially be problematic, but as of now, the engine doesn't have any engine requirements, and so I don't see this being an issue right now. But in the future, it's something to again, just something to look out for. In terms of efficiency, they can already special summon from the graveyard, and so they have sort of a semblance of recyclability, and their effects are naturally valuable. And so if we look at the summon effects, each summon effect will be at least a break even. And so just if it's the only card in your hand, you activate a Bigfoot, for example, your opponent's going to be forced to discard Bigfoot. You 1-for-1, you lose the Bigfoot, they lose whatever card you destroy. And that's the same with all of the danger monsters. If it's the only card in your hand, you're going to break even. And then if it's not the only card in your hand, there are two different options. They will either make you discard itself, like the card that you activate, or you will discard a different card. Both of those are also break evens. If you discard itself, again, you get the effect, and that's fine. If you discard something else, then you special summon the monster you activated and then draw a card to replace what you discarded. So again, you break even. The best scenario is if you activate one danger monster and they accidentally discard from your hand another danger monster, to where you special summon your one, draw what you discarded, or draw a card to replace what you discarded, and then get what you discarded effect. That's the best scenario where you get a +1. And so in terms of efficiency, again, it's about making efficient plays. Your danger monster's effects are always at least breaking even or even plussing 1. There's no way to really neg with these effects, and so there's really not that many inefficient plays. They have recyclability. The only time where you might be making inefficient plays is if you're using inefficient cards to utilize the discard effects. But otherwise, there's really nothing to worry about, and so in terms of efficiency, they also are pretty okay. If you look at utility, Bigfoot is a great first step, being able to destroy face-up cards. It's probably the most important utility that they're going to have for a while. It provides a potentially defensive effect, but also could be a breaker. But then also, due to the engine that they have, there's the potential for more. So like, because it's so easy to search them, because it's so easy to draw and then discard them, because you don't need to have other cards in your hand to discard them, they can discard themselves. Because of that, they have the potential to have very strong utility in the future once they release more cards. And then when it comes to diversity, it's maybe a bit too soon to tell at the moment, and it does depend on future support, but the engine is quite flexible, and there's really nothing to take away from the diversity as of now. Like, it doesn't look like you need to focus on making a certain play, or summoning a certain monster, or funneling your plays through anything. But this attribute is pretty hard to tell right now, but it's something that I think there's no signs pointing to that they're going to have a lack of diversity, and so I don't think this will be an issue. And so if we look at the 5 characteristics of the best deck, they have the potential of being powerful, consistent, efficient. They have the potential to have utility and diversity. They have the potential to exemplify all 5 characteristics of the best deck, which is one of the reasons why I think they have so much potential in the future. They don't really have any glaring issues in regard to any of these. If I had to pick their best one, it's probably consistency in my opinion, because they do have Nessie searching everything. Then they can also special summon anything from the deck. They have Danger Zone, which is draw 3. And then also, I think with dark support, it means you could play Allure of Darkness, which is a 3 of draw 2. So, I mean, that's going to improve consistency as well, allowing you to fix your hands. I think that consistency will be something that they have no issue with. I think utility will be another advantage because of how easy it is to discard things in this deck. I think once they get more effects, And if they just get different and varied effects, utility is going to be a really interesting thing. I think their biggest issue might be power, because you summon all of these cards to your field. I don't quite see yet what you do with those monsters. It doesn't look like it can generate like an absurd number of link materials. So you're not like extra linking your opponent. You're not doing insane crazy plays. Like you could do some okay ones. I don't think it'll be a low power deck, but I don't think it'll be a super high powered one either. And now another thing that I want to look at is their resource management. I want to look at how they fare in terms of card advantage, tempo, and the philosophy of fire. Because that's also really, really important to how your deck is going to function. It's important to understand how your deck manages its resources, because that ultimately influences how it can interact with the rest of the game. And so, starting with card advantage, again, all of the discard effects range from being a break even to a +1. It's really important and it's good that they don't, have any -1s, which again, we mentioned in terms of the efficiency, but it's just important to say that again. But then also with this, we again don't want to play cards that force us to, or we don't want to play cards that are naturally minuses just to break even with the danger effect. We don't want to do that. When it comes to tempo, danger monsters are pretty good because they can give themselves tempo with their own effects. Like you can special summon themselves, they can discard themselves. Tempo is fine. And then if you have Danger Zone plus Bigfoot, you can take tempo away from your opponents. If your opponent has some targeting effects, then Danger Zone might also bias some of the resources, thus taking some of their tempo away. And then when it comes to the philosophy of fire, you really don't have any cards that allow you to trade your own life points for something, but Danger Realm does let you trade for your opponent's life points. And so you might be able to maybe lose a bit of card advantage, but if you can summon a Bigfoot and attack directly with it, sometimes it's just going to allow you to end games, especially if your opponent can't deal with the Bigfoot or the realm of danger, because as long as realm and Bigfoot are on the field, Bigfoot will be able to attack directly. And so it really puts your opponent on like a 3-turn clock, or even a 2-turn clock if you're able to keep summoning more monsters and then attack direct with more of them. And so Realm of Danger is actually pretty decent in terms of the philosophy of fire. And again, it's searchable, and so it's not something that you have to play a lot of, but it's something that you can play one of if you draw a very specific hand in a very specific situation to put a Bigfoot on board and attack for 3,000. Or even if not that, maybe you just want to get a Nessie on board for 1,600, or Chupacabra is also 1,500, which is something you could just normal summon and do. And so if you just need some quick damage, you can always search Realm of Danger and get some quick damage in. I know it's not the best effect, but it is relevant to your resource management. And so that concludes sort of the theory aspect of this video. At least that's all I really want to talk about in this video. There is a bit more we can delve into, but that's another topic for another day. I think at this point we understand for the most part what they do. And so now we just want to talk about some of the things that they need. And so things that they might release moving forward, things that might really help the archetype. And so the first thing that I think they need is more utility. Like we have Bigfoot to destroy face-ups. Maybe in the future they get something to destroy face-downs, or just different types of removal in general to improve the utility. Maybe getting like a way to destroy spells and traps specifically, or maybe a negate a face-up card in the field, negate a monster, banish a monster, flip a monster face down. There's so many different types of effects that we can have, but we just need more of them. Then they also need a few more engine cards. I think the engine is good as it is now, but they need a little bit more. We need a card to add from graveyard to hand. I think that would be the best card. I think also shuffling from graveyard into the deck would be important for some recovery, improve the efficiency a little bit. Also, going from deck to graveyard might be good, because if you special summon a monster from the deck with Jackalope, I think it special summons in defense, but the one that summons from the graveyard can summon an attack. And so there might be value to dumping something from deck to graveyard and then summoning it from the graveyard so that you can attack with it. But we're going to need deck to graveyard for that, and so that could be interesting. Or maybe also a monster that special summons from your hand, but isn't using the special summon effect, because again, there is a risk with the special summon effects from hand. There is a risk that it gets discarded, and sometimes you just want to guarantee the ability to special summon from your hand. And so a monster that does that might be useful. And so adding more utility and more engine cards, I think, are the main things that this deck needs. I think another interesting piece that they're going to need to sort of compete is a standalone card. And so a single card that can trigger both effects would be perfect. Something to really tie the engine together from being two separate entities, because you have these things that special summon themselves, but then you also have this discard mechanic. And so if there was some way to tie those engines together, like one that could maybe special summon itself and then discard a card to do something, or maybe it doesn't even have to special summon itself, maybe it just an engine card that allows you to discard that isn't the special summon effect. So like something you could search with Nessie, normal summon, and then let's say you discard a card to, I don't know, whatever. That would be really useful because it would really tie the engine together. And I think something similar is if we look at the Subterror mechanic or the Subterror deck, they have all these Subterror behemoths that special summon themselves from the hand if you flip something face down. They have all these different utility effects, but they don't work if you don't have cards like Nemesis Warrior, Archer, and Fiendus, and Guru to really tie everything together to allow you to optimize the deck's strengths. I think that's something that they're going to need, and I hope that they do this with the Hunters. Finally, I do want to mention some problems that this Danger archetype has, some things that need to be fixed moving forward. The first of which being a lack of standalone cards. They have a lot of cards that are really good in complex game states, but in simplified game states, they are not amazing. And so I think Danger Zone is good in simplified game states because you're still drawing 3 cards, and that will probably let you draw into a Danger monster, which will get you some value out of that. But other than that, I think they really struggle as of right now, because in a simplified game state, let's say you only have 1 Danger monster, that just means you're gonna be discarding it. And so if you only have that 1 monster and you're discarding that 1 monster, the best you can do is special summon one with Jackalope or Chupacabra, but none of them do anything on the field. And so, like, what do you do with that? And then if we look at certain cards that we mentioned having synergy with them, cards that discard, an issue with cards that discard is that most of them on average are -1s, like we mentioned, and so by themselves they're not very good. So like I think Dark Grepher is an amazing card for the archetype, but Dark Grepher by itself doesn't do anything. And so again, the danger cards by themselves in a simple game state are pretty average, but the problem is the extenders, which are going to be forced to play, because those are usually pretty poor standalone cards. We want cards that are useful in both simplified and complex game states. The second problem that I see them having is field presence. They don't really seem to do anything on the field so far. So far, all the cryptids, when on the field, don't have an effect. Their only effects are in the hand and wherever they're discarded to. And this is sort of problematic because it sort of begs the question of, you summon these monsters, but then what? What do you do when you summon them? What do you do when you summon 2 cryptid monsters or 2 danger monsters? What do you do with them? Like, they're different levels, so you're not exeasing, there are no tuners, you can't synchro, they're not really any good relevant link 2s that like change the game. There's not a link 2 that you could pass your turn on and not expect to die without any sort of other defense. And so it's like, what do you do with these cards? I think they're really gonna need like a link monster, or at least one monster that's strong in a simplified game state, like one monster on the field that does something maybe on both players' turn, like a quick effect, or maybe a monster that's like a towers, like a big daddy of them all, cryptid, mythical monster, I don't know. But they're just gonna need something that does anything on the field would help, because as of right now, like them summoning themselves doesn't really mean anything. And so now, just as a few final thoughts, again, I really think that the danger archetype has a cool mechanic. I think they're really cool. I love the risky nature of it because it allows for a higher level of decision making and risk assessment when using those special summon effects, and then maybe other ones in the future. I think hand management will be important, and I like that. I like that it introduces another way of looking at the game, another thing for us to think about. It really reminds me of Burning Abyss and Spiral to an extent, to where Burning Abyss had like similar effects when sent to the graveyard, and in Spiral in that it deals with different zones of the game. So Spiral dealt with your opponent's deck in a way that we really hadn't interacted with before, and I think these danger monsters interact with your own hand in a way that's different than anything we've ever seen before. And so I think that's really interesting and fun. I think they have amazing artwork. I think Jackalope is one of the cutest cards we've seen in a while, while also being one of the best engine cards they could have potentially gotten. And so again, they have tons of potential with their engine, and it can only get better from here as they get more cards. And so when these cards are available online on Duel Link Book or YGO Pro, if you guys are interested in a deck profile, duels, or maybe something else, let me know in the comment section below. I'd be really interested in it because I am interested in this archetype. I think it looks really cool. I'm really excited for that. So I hope you guys are as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, I will see you in the next one.